folks. This is a Destropod review for Aliens, or Alien 2, the second film in the Alien series. Now, the reason I rewatched this was actually in preparation to do a review for Alien 3, which I personally think is a much better film. That's my personal opinion. Alright, don't flame grill me here. Yeah, everyone has a different order, I've noticed, of Alien films. I will not include Prometheus and anything that came after that. All that stuff is just bullshit, basically. For one thing, they fuck up the bass jockeys. I might even have either an Alien Covenant or a Prometheus review on my channel. I think I've got an Alien Covenant review on my channel, perhaps. I also have another Alien related video on my channel, which is my take on what Alien 5 should be, following on from this series of films. So check that out if you haven't seen that already. It's basically like me doing an abridged script, like me reading you a long synopsis or a short summary of a script sort of thing for a film. But yeah, so I wanted to do Alien 3 review, and I thought I need to refresh my mind, refresh my memory, because I have watched Alien 1, the first movie, thousands of times, probably, because it's possibly the best movie or one of the best movies that has ever been made. So I know a lot of it off by heart, to be honest. Jonesy's the hero, by the way. He's the survivor. So I wasn't going to rewatch Alien 1 because I just know it. You know, I don't need to, refresh my mind on that one. But Alien, the second movie, so I saw it quite a few times when I was a kid. And back then, I liked it quite a lot. And then I had a period after that where I didn't like it. I don't know if that was young adult years, something like that. And I thought the first movie was great. The first movie's clearly the best. I have a soft spot for the fourth movie. I know people hate that. But Alien 3 was my second best. That was one of my favourites. I really liked that movie. And a lot of people hate it. So that's kind of why I wanted to do a review of it. Because it's weird that so many people hate it. I don't understand that myself. It's a really good movie. Again, one of the best movies ever made. It's not Alien 1 by any stretch, but yeah. But a lot of people, they place like the second film as one of their favourites. And I had a period up to recently, I guess, of disliking the second movie. I've rewatched it the other day and I'm like, okay, it's not that bad. And I'll just give you some kind of notes, I guess. So it's going to be like scripted sort of talking for just notes as I was watching, really, and what I thought of Aliens, the second film in the Alien saga, which consists of 4 films, by the way, no more than that. Yeah, so without further ado, couldn't tell at first if I was watching the theatrical release of this or the director's cut. Turns out I think I was rewatching the director's cut because there's a lot of scenes with the colonists and things. So starting the movie. Nice music, although different from the first movie. Very chill, relaxing opening as Pod gets swallowed up by a bigger pickup craft. Love the bomb disposal type robot with the crane and blue scanning laser. You get the idea that the humans don't want to go into the Narcissus pod first, as if they've heard Ripley's distress call about there being an alien life form. The frost in the pod Narcissus over everything, including the seats and pipes that look like the xenomorph, are very cool. Did they freeze a set? Jonesy is in the pod with Ripley, the true hero of the Alien films. Cutting to a space station, Gateway Station, hovering over Earth, is such a weird choice for the film to go to. You'd think they'd stay out in deep space, far from anything. I do like some aspects of Aliens, even though I dislike it now more than when I was a kid. It is a bit more of a shallow action movie than a story that fits well with the continuity after the first movie. But now, it's an established part of the series, and other films draw upon what it created. You can't really remove it from the timeline. It made the Queen alien, for instance. Burke appears. You're suffering from the effects of such an unusually long hypersleep, 57 years. This is something I must congratulate Aliens for, and all the subsequent films. They introduced the notion of time travel into the future for Ripley. In each new film, she wakes up in the far future. She never travels back in time, only forward, by means of being frozen in cryosleep pods, or resurrected or cloned, etc. Ripley is a time traveller. It's a bit goofy that the whole scene in which Burke meets Ripley, shows her Jonesy, and gives her all this info about where she is a dream sequence. That's dumb. Because now surely she'd have to be awake for real and go through this entire scene again. And how could she learn the factual details from a dream she had before she'd been given them? Plot hole? Either that, or she already had this conversation before with Burke, and now it's just repeating inside her dream after the real convo. Still weird. The music is very thrilling, and less classical, and less eerie when it appears, such as Ripley's chestburster dream. It has its own coolness, but paints a very different atmosphere to the last movie. I think each of the 4 movies does this to some degree. The idea that Ripley has outlived her own child daughter, who died an old woman, is a nice detail to add to her time travel dislocation feeling. He shows her the photo of an old woman, died age 66, 2 years ago. Ripley says, "I promised I'd be home for her 11th birthday." Makes us think about this woman's life lived without her mother due to Ripley drifting lost in space for years past the core systems, and with pure luck being picked up. Why's Amanda Ripley become Amy? That's surely short for Amelia? A Weyland-Yutani roundtable of company men grills her over for destroying the Nostromo 57 years ago. They're not that angry about it, but they suspend her flight officer license. The version I'm watching might be the director's cut. It is showing Hadley's Hope, the new human terraformer colony on LV-46. There is a giant wheelie truck entering the gates. They are making the atmosphere breathable, so no need anymore for the giant samurai spacesuits of Alien 1. Despite now having the air mostly breathable, I love the inhospitability and storminess of the driving wind and fog, the dark navy blue nighttime. We get to see the actor who played the ship's captain from Red Dwarf as the base commander Al here, which is an excellent, almost crossover character. It's great seeing Hadley's Hope alive, busy and functioning, before the lost contact accident that leads Ripley and the Marines to explore their suddenly empty living quarters and town. It's also great hearing Al's dialogue here, with a subordinate claiming a WY company guy asked him to send staff to go look at a grid reference in the middle of nowhere, mysteriously. Perhaps this coincides with Ripley's return. Perhaps it's even Burke getting data from Ripley on her encounter, so he knows the origin of the space jockey's ship and eggs. Thus, Ripley's arrival and company bioweapon goals and shady interference equals the aliens' return. Another problem about this film is the look and behaviour of the xenomorphs, named by the film, or aliens. They're very different to the first movie. Perhaps budget reasons? They changed the monster's look. Perhaps they didn't think it necessary to look the same at the time and wanted the monster to be a different art style for whatever reason. And it completely changes the meaning of the organism. Audiences watched Alien and thought that these aliens were very characteristically different from the alien of the first movie, and the filmmakers never created an adequate explanation for why. These xenomorphs also differ from the third movie, whose filmmakers at least picked up that the look of the alien should change from film to film, even giving a reason for the difference in their runner alien, born of a dog or ox, which led audiences forming a mythology about animal life stages and subcategories. But all of this might have been originally sparked by a mistake or a lack of focus or vision of what the filmmakers had in mind. Did the scriptwriter for Aliens think about the aliens being different from the first movie? Or was it an on-purpose choice or a blundering accident? The giant four-wheeled truck explores the planet, and there are lightning storms and lava and smoke emanating from the ground. Again, they made it oxygenated and breathable, but it's still completely inhospitable otherwise. I think it was established by Ash in the first movie that when the sun rises on LV-46, it's still mostly dark like nighttime. The family discovers a derelict in their giant car, So I think I am watching the director's cut version. I don't think the theatrical cut has these scenes in it. I like that we see Newt's dad, and he seems fairly characterful and amiable, so it must be a big loss to her to lose her father here to a facehugger. I don't like that the dad is completely unscared by seeing the alien donut ship. Burke shows himself to be very manipulative from the get-go here, when he appears in Ripley's flat with Gorman of the Marines. But why is it so vital to him that he persuades Ripley to join them? He's practically begging her. I like that they have a kind of a slow burn startup, where not much happens for a while, aside from the colonist scenes. It's not as full on as Alien 1, where nothing big purposefully happens for like 40 minutes, except world building and character building, which is excellent. But it's cool that they delay the eventfulness at the start of the movie and just give hints of what may come. The Sulaco is introduced, and they slowly reveal the interior with some of the semi-familiar waking up from cryosleep music themes introduced in the first movie. The Colonial Marine Corps is introduced, essentially in the style of Vietnam War-era US soldiers, but in space. Vasquez stands out as the short-haired tough woman. Several hints are given by Bill Paxton's Hudson character that in this timeline of the Alien series, alien life forms, entirely separate from the xenomorphs we know, have been discovered. Here's some dialogue. Who's the new girl? She saw an alien once. Whoopie fucking do. And is this another bug hunt? Ripley gets a glimpse from even the Marines drill sergeant, Apone, I think, that they're a bunch of undisciplined stereotypical cowboys or cavaliers who aren't taking anything seriously. She is deadly serious after Alien 1. I like the transition in her character from being, in the first movie, scared but capable enough to work out a way to escape Nostromo on her own, then into this second movie as someone confident enough to be mentally tougher than the Marines and the other humans shown, just by having that unique knowledge and experience about the xenomorph aliens. Bishop, played by Lance Henriksen, is introduced as the second synthetic android character we have encountered, which the audience along with Ripley immediately distrusts when they see his white blood. This sets him up as well placed for the story to turn him gradually into a good guy. He also becomes even more important in the third movie. In the wide shots of the Sulaco above the planet, LV-426 looks completely different to the yellowish ball we see in Alien 1. The yellow power loader robot forklift suits are cool, toy-like additions to the series. You can see why, despite being adult content, a lot of kids went to see these movies. It is a very fun kind of film for a kid to see, and probably contributed to a change in attitudes about horror and sci-fi movies and age-restricted or censored movies. Lots of young teens would do everything they could to see 12 plus and 18 plus rated films that they supposedly weren't supposed to see due to censorship. I like the dynamic shot of the two loader suits moving past each other in shot as Ripley picks up a box. With this, and directly after the introduction of the gimbaled smart gun machine guns worn by Vasquez and Drake, then later the dropship, pulse rifle, APC, and auto turrets, we are entering a long section of the movie that establishes a large bunch of unique kit and vehicles, more toys for the audience to grapple with. There is excellent cinematography work with the establishment of geography, something many films of that era struggled with. Establishment of locations and what's in them, where they are, how to get there, what shape is it, communicating this with the audience. You get little hints of the silent glances Ripley gives around at the Marines' equipment as the music pounds a military snare drum, that she has small hopes that things might go differently this time. Establishment of the low-res head cameras and life sign monitors which Gorman checks from his CCTV room. Lieutenant Gorman is established as the Marines' leader, but there's a huge disconnect between him and them. He seems very isolated, and they make fun of him when they can. He has a nervous quake in his voice when he talks. There's a lovely music cue after the dropship pilot says, "Where's the damn beacon?" "Oh, I see it," which is haunting and threatening. as Hadley's Hope looms out of a foggy rainstorm. I love how the dropship immediately drops the APC and leaves. Ripley, although told about the atmosphere processor terraforming, must find it incredibly weird being on the same planet as she was in Alien, except being able to breathe the air without a giant spacesuit. The Marines move like they're going to war with humans. They don't have movement tactics as if they're dealing with animals. They should be more like hunters. For instance, the team in Predator move a little more like they're there to hunt some sort of animal. The Marines immediately emerge under a hole in the ceiling dripping water, and Ripley doesn't seem to say anything. Surely the audience would recognise this evidence from seeing similar in the Nostromo? There's a couple little details I didn't notice until this viewing, even though I've seen this many times. Drake has some sort of bracelet bangles hanging either from his neck or his head or hat. In the breach of Hadley's Hope scene, Hicks leads a squadron up a staircase. I thought they were all on the ground floor. The motion tracker is revealed, better than the one in Alien 1. This is a great tension building device, a little more similar to the locating computer screen in Alien 1 at the death of Captain Dallas. The APC is a lovely design. The fact that Gorman says area cleared and sweeped and decides he and the advisors and command can come in helps illustrate a sense of geography that we've just seen an entire 2 floors of this building from most of the Marines' eyes. It's a fairly small block. They mention another room called Operations, which may be a 3rd floor, which Hudson is going to. There are echoes of Nostromo in the set where they cut through mid-lab to find Operations together. Here they discover a bunch of facehuggers stored in pickle jar water tanks by the colonists before they had a firefight against aliens and died. This means at some point, unshown by the film, a fair amount of time must have passed between Newt's father finding the derelict and getting facehugged, and the last stand, in which colonists captured, brought back home and studied lots of facehuggers. Bishop states some were surgically removed from patients, which killed them. This time gap could be explained by Ripley and the Marines going into cryosleep and going from Gateway Station on Earth all the way into deep space at LV-426, which is another little time travel element that you don't always notice. It's amusing how the Marines machine-gunned the running Newt thinking she's an alien. They could have hit her. It's interesting, I never really noticed how the introduction of Newt evading the Marines under the grilling at their feet echoes how she evades the alien queen at the end of the film. Operations is the room seen earlier in the film when the colony was populated. A high floor surrounded by windows like an air traffic control tower. It looks out over rooftops and lights. They play Bishop as being like Ash here, as he's in the med lab, prying at a facehugger mouth, studying it under a microscope, remarking about the magnificence of these aliens. The geography established is that the giant atmospheric generator reactor is a huge mountainous building separated from the living base colony at Hadley's Hope. Hudson thinks he detects a gathering of still living colonists there, so they drive to it in the APC hoping to meet them. What they're actually stumbling into is the new Queen Alien's nest or hive, built where it's warm, into the nuclear reactor, where she lays many new eggs, with the half-dead colonists around as food and parasite hosts for the facehugger-implanted chestbursters. The new arriving Marines disturb the nest, alerting the Hornet-like alien drones into defensive action, seeking them out to kill. As they enter the nest, the Marines notice the weird alien-constructed wall architecture, slightly different from the interior of the derelict, probably worked into place like a paper wasp's saliva. Gorman says, "What is that?" Ripley says, "I don't know." This is new to her. Other clues. The girl Marine snaps off a piece. Looks like some sort of secreted resin. And it's hot as hell in here. I like it when Ripley and Burke inform Gorman that his Marines are taking guns into a nuclear power plant, and he's suddenly shocked, partly because he never knew, and partly because he knows he can't control the men. Now he suddenly gets very nervous of setting off a nuclear explosion. Ripley adopts a conservative stance, telling Newt to go sit elsewhere in the APC away from the screens as the Marines locate the first entombed colonist body. Dead. Hicks looks into an egg. Luckily for him, it's empty. Drake is now hanging his surfer necklace things from the butt of his smart gun. I don't like the trilling music flourish like that plays as they discover the living colonist and she opens her eyes here. It seems more like tacky horror, and the sound plays again during various encounters with the aliens. Killing the first chestburster with fire immediately alerts the hive, and you can hear hissing sounds from above them as the new drone aliens, unlike the lone strong warrior alien of the first movie, come out to defend their nest. It is a clever thing to see the walls come alive here, building on the end moments of the first movie where the alien blends into the pipework of the Narcissus to hide from Ripley. These new aliens sleep or hide by wall climbing and attaching themselves to the alien nest wall architecture, blending in as camouflage until they get the drop on prey moving below them. The behaviour of these aliens was mixed with the runner of the third movie to produce all the alien behaviours in the Rebellion 2000 video game Alien vs Predator. I say Rebellion Year 2000 Alien vs Predator because there are many games that have that same title, unfortunately, but this one's the best. The second alien they show pulls the woman Marine up to the ceiling in an effect similar to what must have happened to Brett during the first movie. It's an iconic hero moment for Vasquez when she screams, "Let's rock!" and fires a smart gun for the first time with her secret ammo. Very cool. This also triggers Gorman's meltdown after telling them to confiscate their ammo so as not to fire into the coolant pipes of a nuke. It's a great hero moment when Gorman has a mental breakdown and Ripley assumes control of the rescue. This is also where the famous music from Alien begins, with its very unusual theme tune, like something Indian. Another dodgy sound effect is the elephant squeal they give the aliens. For example, when Ripley drives the APC over the head of one of them. "I say we take off and nuke the entire site from orbit. It's the only way to be sure." Upon hearing this epic line, Burke begins defending both the facility and the aliens from destruction by the Marines, betraying more and more his company agenda. Accidental hilarious moment. Being introduced to co-pilot Marine Spunkmeyer, who immediately puts his hand in a goopy puddle of alien secretion. Hicks is promoted over Burke and agrees to nuke the planet from orbit to remove the threat of the xenomorphs. The aliens kill their dropship pilot, denying them access to space, and Hudson, Bill Paxton's character, also begins losing his mind. I've never noticed before, but during the "they mostly come at night, mostly" line from Newt, they look up at the sun, which looks like some sort of light from one of the buildings. It is dim like a full moon at night. Hiding in operations at Hadley's Hope, the film becomes a survivalism show, as they all work out in dwindled numbers how to hold out like the colonists did against the drone aliens. Higgs says if they're overdue returning home from their mission, they have to wait 17 days to expect a rescue mission to come get them. On a schematic blueprint, we are shown the geography of the gulf of distance between the colony and the reactor. And they point out that the field the APC drove over above ground is mirrored by a similar straight route below ground of a service tunnel, a duct tube where the aliens run from their nest to the town. A cool detail, but not executed quite explicitly enough to explain the geography to early viewers of the film. I feel like the remote sentry gun turret scenes are different or lessened in the theatrical release film. Ripley takes Newt to tuck her in and hide her in the med lab. This is where two still alive facehuggers in tanks that they never killed are kept, and Burke begins to show his true colours. Bishop snitches to Ripley about Burke wanting to keep the facehuggers. Ripley confronts him. Burke says he wants to sell them to the WY Bioweapons Division to get rich. Ripley discovers that Burke was the man who issued a company directive sending colony staff to the derelict ship's location in hopes of getting them impregnated. The first front line of sentry turrets go off and fire to empty, alerting the Marines to the entrance of the alien drones into the colony buildings from the service tunnel. The pressure is put onto the Marines as Bishop spots an emergency heat venting event happening on the reactor. It was caused by the dropship crash. He says in only 4 hours it will go nuclear, forcing them to have to come up with emergency plans to escape the planet. Ripley comes up with the idea of remote controlling the second dropship from the Sulaco to reach them, but it can only be done from the APC, which was damaged. Bishop and Ripley suggest manually turning the satellite dish of the base to communicate with Sulaco from the ground. Spooky, mysterious, to audience unknown technology time. Bishop opens up a pipe. It is not the service tunnel to the reactor, it is a conduit pipe to an uplink tower 40 minutes away. He crawls through it. He says overall time to get the dropship down is near 3 hours, close to the blast detonation time. The second front line of turrets runs almost dry, but with 10 shots left. The alien drones retreat to find another way in. Cool detail here, as Ripley claims the aliens aren't omniscient and didn't know the turret was almost out of ammo. Hicks showing Ripley how to use a pulse rifle is like one big sex joke innuendo. It's inexplicable why, after their conversations with Burke, Ripley and the Marines are just letting him walk around, unsupervised, unwatched, to go do whatever. They found out he was the cause of the colonists disturbing the derelict, and that he wants to keep the aliens alive as bioweapons. Why, then, do they let him go? The scene where Bishop reaches the outdoor satellite station is cool. Something about the huge silhouetted dish moving about him, and the functionality of the big metal dropship crane coming to life is cool. The facehuggers attack Ripley and Newt. It's her own fault for letting Burke roam free. Imagine if she did that with Ash after finding out he wanted to capture the alien. I like the detail of Burke having moved her pulse rifle and turning off the CCTV camera of Ripley waving in the operations room. But how did he smash the 2 glass jars containing the facehuggers without waking Ripley? I guess now Gorman's awake, he's in control again instead of Hicks, right? Newt and Ripley both going, "I'm scared," to each other. Yeah, that's not useful. The facehugger running effects are excellent work. I've no idea how they did that. Hudson gets his hero moment with, "Christ, kid, look out!" and shooting one of them. So there's only 3 working cryopods on the Sulaco working, I guess? At what point did Burke get a chance to sabotage all but 3? This is also kind of foreshadowing that there can only be 3 survivors to this film, not counting Bishop. I love this red and blue lighting as they all realise the aliens have found a way into their room. It's sad that Hudson dies. The hand over the face pulling him under the floor is horrific. Kind of freaky how an alien drone appears in the vent above Vasquez in the duct network, and she shoots it and its whole weight falls on her. I don't get the point in this weird water wheel after the vents, which is how they lose Newt to the sewers. The alien emerging from the water is to tease what is coming in Alien Resurrection. The swimming alien scenes. Hicks! I know! Hurry! I know! I mean it! I know. I like how Hicks is leading her, even though he's got some sort of limping wound. And now he has a life-threatening acid burn to his torso, and she's leading him. Some lovey-dovey relationship coupley stuff here that wouldn't happen in a woke SJW film. Now Ripley's got 26 minutes to get into the Queen's Nest and out again with Newt. Shot of them flying into the atmosphere reactor like it's the Death Star, lol. I love the really quick delivered casual line by Bishop. In 19 minutes this place is going to be a cloud of vapor the size of Nebraska. This part, especially with the tooling up and overly climactic action scene stuff, is the reason why the film is weak compared to the others in the series. I mean, there are cool things about it, but it is all show-off, silly action hero stuff from the moment she goes down the lift to the "get away from her, you bitch" much later during the false ending. It seems a lot easier to take on the aliens or outwit them when you go in alone. Pulling Newt out of the secretion cocoon trap is like dismantling a big sugary cake of some sort. The laboured breathing sound of the alien queen upon reveal is excellent, and yet it sounds exactly like straw slurping the remainders of a McDonald's milkshake. I never quite noticed, but there's some sort of communication going on between the Queen and Ripley and the drones in this scene in the nest. The Queen looks side to side in between shots. Each drone backs off after Ripley motions that she might burn the eggs. Then, animalistically, the Queen seems to be wanting to let her go to protect her eggs. When Ripley changes her mind and fries the eggs, all bets are off. The Queen's never gonna let it go. From Queenie's perspective, Ripley just took away her effort and her life's purpose, and the only way to start her nest again is to kill Ripley no matter where she is. Funny thing, I can kind of see things from the alien Queen's perspective, as if she's the good guy protagonist here. Ripley's gone into a rage bender, firing her weapons at every egg possible, and destroyed everything she loved. Kind of fun how they play the Alien 1 music by Jerry Goldsmith here. Sleepy Alien.
Hold on to me!
As the Queen shows it has begun chasing Ripley. The fiery gantry of metal after "Bishop, goddamn you!" is nice, as firstly it offers her a choice of deaths between falling off a cliff into fire or death by alien Queen arriving in a lift. But secondly, it does seem to get echoed in Alien 3, where Ripley is also on a metal gantry, deciding to jump from a height into a fire. Except in that one, the choice is obvious, because the Queen is the chestburster inside her. The dropship getting snagged on a bit of loose metal for a moment is a perfect explanation for how the Queen gets on board with them and appears later. The climactic music here, as they escape the reactor, is fun and iconic. It's great music and it's memorable, but does it necessarily belong in a real Alien film? It's not dark enough or classical enough, not the spooky tones of the original Alien. You remember the way that the Nostromo exploded in that film, which is a kind of mirror for what's happening here. I know some people hate it, because they're obsessed with Newt, I guess, but I really love the transition from the end of Aliens with Newt and Hicks settling into the cryopod, with the beginning of Alien 3, where her new boyfriend and surrogate daughter are depressingly killed, and she's once again in the dark, bleak world of Alien, where things are meant to be evil and bad, sad and terrifying, horror, and no happy endings. The Alien series is not a place for happy endings. It's a story about Ripley finding out what the aliens are, and trying to survive them, usually on her own. If anything, the arc is that she's becoming more like them as time goes on, and her time travel makes her more and more detached from humanity, so she is the alien. It's really interesting in the rewatch noticing that Bishop actually gets only a small amount of screen time compared to the other characters, and yet he's so distinctive that you notice him more, as if he's been on screen for longer than he has. An illusion. I love the huge Alien Queen physical creature effect they created. Years before the T-Rex in Jurassic Park, it's just like, how did you do this? How are we witnessing a puppet so large that has mobility and weight to it? Doesn't look CGI, is obviously occupying real-life space. Amazing monster. The way its giant hands grasp the whole floor grill tiles and lift them out of place is cool. The way the Queen's inner jaw fires in to try and reach Ripley through the gap in the power loader's cockpit is cool. It's funny how Ripley's trying the same thing she knows from the first movie, echoed again in the fourth movie, but not in the third, of open a spaceship airlock and flush the alien out into outer space. Oh man, her falling off a cliff in the power loader suit should have done more injurious damage to Ripley than it did. How many meters down is that? How are they breathing after Ripley throws Queenie out of the airlock? Didn't they just dump nearly all the oxygen out of the room? It's kind of funny how they're playing the ending all dreamlike and happy and unicorns and rainbows after the Queen is yeeted. But from the perspective of Alien 3, the Queen has left a couple of eggs on board somewhere, and a Queen facehugger is waiting to implant Ripley. whilst a normal egg is waiting to implant a dog. How does one egg become a queen and the other become a standard soldier alien? The real survivor is still Jonesy. Ripley, why are your boobs like long pointy pencils that stick out really far? Get to bed, Newt. I'm gonna chop you up in the next movie. Newt's pronunciation of affirmative gets progressively worse and worse as the film goes on. Affirmative? Affirmative? I-affirmative? What the fuck? Ending shot prioritizes framing of Newt in the cryopod, more dominant than Ripley. I bet they thought in a future film that she would take over as the next hero girl. Film ends. So that's my little review of Aliens, the second movie. Alien 2, I guess you could call it. If it had a decent naming convention, it'd be Alien 2. So I thought the film was a lot better than I've been thinking it was for a while. But I still do think that Alien 3 is a superior movie out of 2 and 3. And it's good to have caught up. Obviously, you can't extricate the second movie from the series because it established so many things, like the hives that are created by the secretions, like the entombing, like the alien queen, which shows up in the fourth movie and the third movie, I guess, in a small way. And it also establishes the time travel aspect and also sets the groundwork for, via a mistake in the design of the alien monster, it sets the groundwork for this kind of mythology about the alien animal and its life cycles and how it will appear as a different kind of creature slightly depending on where it came from and the circumstances of its birth, sort of thing. Is it a feminist film? No, not at all. I had a film studies teacher from my art college exclaiming that Ripley is a feminist hero or something. No, she's a good female hero. There's nothing feminist about it. As I say, the themes of the Alien films should be Ripley getting estranged from humanity. A lot of people say the theme of these films is motherhood and the twisting around of motherhood. You can make that argument. But I think the main theme is like Ripley finding this mysterious alien organism and she and them become somewhat intrinsically linked in a way that other humans the aliens encounter don't. And she is trying to survive them. She does succeed in surviving them, but it gets more muddy as time goes on. Like she's finding it harder to survive them as time goes on. And it's because she's becoming more like them and she's becoming more separated from humanity herself due to time travel. Because the further she just keeps waking up on and on in the future, the more she identifies less with humans and more with the android synthetics and the aliens. So she becomes this different kind of person. And I mean, you could also make the case that she actually dies, she fully dies in Alien 3, which she does, but a version of her, which is more like the aliens, gets born again in the future and has all the memories that Ripley has, so she thinks she's her still. So you kind of identify with that Ripley Clone 8's kind of thoughts as things go forward, even if it is like a sister character to the one we're used to. The music is good except for the trilling flourish and various little things like that. It's a very strange soundtrack when you hear the main theme. It's a fun soundtrack, but what is that main theme? It's so like what the fuck is that? It's some kind of Indian war chant music. You could play it in a Cowboys and Indians kind of movie. Does it really belong in Alien? Not really. But there are certain pieces of music which work for the film. It makes it a bit too action-oriented, I think. The other three films have better musical scores than this, even though they're all good in their own way. They're all very different in their own way. They all have different characters. Each movie in the Alien saga is similar enough to the one that came before it, but also detached enough from the one that came before it to have a uniqueness while not departing from kind of the lore and while making its own pieces of the lore. For instance, you got things introduced in Alien Resurrection, which I'd still personally believe are parts of the series, like the Viper Pit and like the changes to the Alien Queen, and the way the new elements of like the aliens can swim, and the aliens will like gang up on each other sometimes to kill a weaker member of their species in order to just use the acid blood to break out of traps and things. That's like a behavioural thing introduced, and there's lovely things like that here and there. The plot's good, the characters are good, most of the characters are unique. There's more characters that stand out than others. For instance, there's one female Marine character who I basically don't even notice through the entire movie, except when she's in the locker room scene at the start with Vasquez, and she looks a bit like Vasquez, but she's just in the background a bit. And then you see it, you sort of see her dragged off by an alien, because you can hear a woman's voice screaming when one of the Marines gets sucked upwards to the ceiling. So there's a lot of distinctive characters. I don't think Bishop is as good as Ash when it comes to the androids, but he is a lovable character and a distinctive character despite his tiny screen time. And I don't particularly like that they created the drone alien, like the departure from the look of the monster of the original film to this kind of seemingly weak one. You can have loads of it, but it's weaker. Like some bullets from a gun will just kill it instantly. It's not like what we saw in the first film, which is like this single star beast stalking around the corridors, and you feel like if you fired it with a bunch of guns it would still be there, like coming after you. So yeah, I think the aliens in Alien Resurrection are a lot more similar to the first movie. So in Alien Resurrection we find out what it'd be like to have more than one of the first movie's kind of alien, whereas in this second movie we've got lots of aliens, but it's not lots of the alien that we've seen already. It's lots of something new. The third movie is a very distinctive duo of aliens, should I say. And that's what I'll be reviewing next time. Thank you for watching.
Kids!
I know!
Hurry!
I know!
I mean it!
I know!